working to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Hello, I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching ASEAN in Focus. We're coming to you live from Manila and Thailand. Hello, Esther.
Hi, Alma. I'm Esther Odanga from EBC Thailand Bureau, bringing you the news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines, the Philippines has received a total of 2,279,160 doses of Pfizer vaccines against coronavirus disease, the biggest shipment of the American-made jabs through the COVAX facility.
12 people were killed when a Myanmar military plane crashed in the central region of the country Thursday.
President Duterte has vowed to hold accountable the members of the Communist Party of the Philippines armed wing, the New People's Army, who planted the anti-personnel mine, or APM, in Masbate City that killed 2 civilians and wounded a minor.
Train travel has largely ground to a halt in Cambodia due to the coronavirus, but railway fans can still get their fix aboard a stationary carriage converted into a hipster cafe.
And now to the news. The Philippines has received a total of 2,279,160 doses of Pfizer-BioNTech vaccines against COVID-19 on Thursday. And this is the biggest shipment of the American-made jabs through the COVAX facility. Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. said as soon as the inspection has been completed and the DHL logistics gives a go signal for distribution, the government will immediately deploy the vaccines to areas with appropriate cold storage facilities. Take a look.
Very stringent ang kanyang requirement na ito para sa lahat ng ating mga senior citizens. Ang A4, yung mga ating mga vaccine na na-procured po lang natin. So yung Sinovac ito, pwede ito sa A4.
2,279,160 doses of Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine.
Around 1.9 million doses were transported to Manila, while 210,600 each were allocated to Cebu and Davao region. In Luzon, the latest donation will mostly go to Metro Manila, Laguna, Rizal, Bulacan, Pampanga, Batangas, Baguio City, and other areas with third-party solutions for the jab storage requirement. Health Secretary Francisco Duque, meanwhile, assured that the government will strictly follow the COVAX mandate to prioritize medical frontliners, seniors, those with comorbidities, and the indigent population.
Now let's go over to Malaysia, where the authorities recommended some safety measures after the collision between metro trains in Kuala Lumpur that injured more than 200 people. Here's Alfred Balmes for an update on this developing story. Hi, Alfred.
Hi, Esther. Good afternoon. After the collision of incident of Ilanajaya line on May 24, the Cabinet has approved 20 recommendations made a 9-member of investigation committee. Particular attention was given to ensure that the entire rail service industry and structure management keep public safety as a paramount concern. Transport Minister Dato Siri Dr. Wika Siong said the recommendation will improve systemic and safety aspect of rapid rail SDN BST services in the short and long term. During a virtual conference on June 10, Dr. Wee said the report is not for the purpose of apportioning blame or liability of any party. The recommendation consists of 5 short-term, 11 medium-term, and 7 long-term changes. Among the short-term recommendation, which must be implemented with the next 3 months, is for 2 hustler drivers to be assigned during the manual train operation with tunnels. on one hostler will drive the train while another will act as safety and compliance officer. The investigation committee has also called for an improvement of the checklists used by hostler and operation control centers during the manual operation and critical situation. Work tools given to hostler to carry out their duties in low visibility environments such as LRT tunnels must be upgraded, and the committee said. It also recommended the setting of a sighting committee to perform audits on track markers. For the medium and long term,
All right, we'll try and get back with Alfred in a while as soon as we get a better connection. But first, let's get the latest coronavirus situation in Thailand. Here's Veronica Carino. Hello, Veronica. Okay, we'll try and get back with them later. Singapore will begin slowly easing a months-long partial lockdown from next week after the curbs succeeded in stemming a coronavirus outbreak, according to authorities. Now, the city-state has weathered the pandemic largely unscathed, but saw an uptick in local transmissions in recent weeks as new variants spread. Fresh restrictions were introduced in mid-May, including a cap on the size of social gatherings at 2, the closure of schools, and a ban on dining in at restaurants. Now, with cases falling steadily, maximum sizes for gatherings will be lifted to 5 from Monday, and bigger groups will be allowed at events such as live performances. If the situation remains under control, more restrictions will be lifted from June 21st, including a resumption of restaurant dine-ins, while people will be allowed to work out at gyms without masks. However, employees who can work from home must continue to do so. Trade Minister Gan Kim Yong, a member of a government task force dealing with the virus, said the city-state's outbreak was now under control. Twelve people were killed when a Myanmar military plane crashed in a central region of the country, according to a spokesman for the junta. The plane, which was carrying 6 crew and 8 passengers, crashed near the city of Pien U Lwin, according to the spokesperson in a statement to journalists, blaming the cause on bad weather. The spokesperson said it lost communications when it was 400 meters away from a steel factory near the airport. A senior monk was among those on board, the statement said, adding a team had been able to rescue a boy and a sergeant who had been sent to a nearby military hospital. The Myanmar junta has set deposed civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi with corruption charges over claims she accepted illegal payments of gold and more than $500,000 in cash, according to state media. Now, the 75-year-old Nobel laureate, who has been in custody since the coup, is facing a raft of wide-ranging criminal charges, including sedition and breaching a colonial-era secrecy law. The latest charges relate to allegations by the former Yangon region chief minister that Suu Kyi illegally accepted $500,000 or $600,000 in cash from him, along with around 11 kilograms of gold. The Anti-Corruption Commission found evidence that Suu Kyi had committed corruption using her rank, that according to the Global New Light of Myanmar, a state-run newspaper. She is also accused of abusing her authority when renting 2 areas of land for her charitable foundation. After weeks of legal wrangling, 2 of Suu Kyi's trials are due to start in earnest next week, hearing evidence from witnesses. In Naypyidaw, the remote capital purpose-built by the previous military regime, her trial will start on Monday on charges of violating restrictions during last year's election campaign and possessing unlicensed walkie-talkies. A separate case is scheduled to start on June 15, where she's charged with sedition alongside ousted President Win Myint and another senior member of her National League for Democracy party. Meanwhile, the UN said the country team in Myanmar remains deeply concerned over the continued use of force against children. Take a look.
And from Myanmar, the UN country team there says they remain deeply concerned over the continued use of force against children. They call on security forces to refrain from violence and keep children and young people out of harm's way. The UN's Children's Fund said that 56 children have reportedly been killed by security forces since the beginning, since the military took control of the government on Friday.
Now, security forces have fired on civilian protests with sniper rifles, machine guns, and mortar rounds in the months since the February coup that ousted civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi. More than 800 people have already been killed and thousands of others wounded in a running crackdown on opposition to the military regime, according to rights groups.
Staying in Myanmar, an international medical charity warned Wednesday of life-threatening consequences for thousands of HIV and tuberculosis patients in Myanmar after it was ordered by the junta to stop work in a southern city. Doctors Without Borders, widely known by its French initials MSF, received a letter from regional authorities asking us to suspend all activities in southeastern Dawei, where it has provided HIV care for over 2 decades. Suspending MSF's activities could be life-threatening for many of our patients at a time when public services remain severely disrupted, it said in a statement to AFP. Almost all public hospitals remain closed following the country's February coup, with many doctors joining a huge civil strike, leaving the healthcare system incapacitated. MSF added it had reached out to authorities to understand that decision, which said would impact 2,162 people living with HIV and receiving antiretroviral treatments in the city. The charity also warned of the risk of further disease transmission, including tuberculosis, as it has been filling gaps in the nation's faltering TB program since February. MSF has requested authorities in Dawei, the hometown of junta leader Min Aung Hlaing, reverse the decision. It was only when he boarded the plane that would fly him to Europe that Rat Kiao finally felt safe for the first time since Myanmar's military coup on February 1. It had been an arduous few months for the 30-year-old journalist who quickly found himself on the military junta's wanted list for reporting of its deadly crackdown on anti-coup protesters. He has also written widely on Rohingya issues and won AFP's 2017 Kate Webb Award for his outstanding coverage of the ethnic and religious conflicts in Myanmar. Let's watch this.
We're just like waiting for the doors knocking, actually. You know, if someone is coming to our house, you know, sometimes we heard that footsteps on the ladder. It's just like it's coming for me. So on March 11, those soldiers came to my streets and then searched for someone. But, you know, luckily I was not there. So my neighbor, my friends the next door just take pictures of them, and then he sent me. And then, you know, he told me you should leave Yangon right now because, you know, they were searching for you. After I landed in Frankfurt, it's just like, okay, you know, like the military cannot arrest me anymore. It's like that. But the feeling just faded out after I was arrested in the Frankfurt airport, actually. And then the German police told me that we will not deport you to your country. And then that moment I just relieved, you know.
On June 6, Keith Absalon, a football player of Far Eastern University, and his cousin Nolven Absalon died in the explosion of an anti-personnel landmine planted by the Communist Party of the Philippines, New People's Army in Masbate. Now, Malacanang has condemned the deaths of the two and considered the incident as an international war crime. President Duterte has vowed to hold accountable the members of the Communist Party of the Philippines armed wing, the New People's Army, who planted those APM in Masbate City and killed the two civilians and wounded a minor. Take a look.
Sa iba pang mga bagay, nakikiramay po kami sa pamilya ni football player Keith Absalon at sa kanyang pinsan na si Nolven na namatay sa isang pagsabok na inako ng CPP-NPA. Ulitin po namin, ang ginawa po ng CPP-NPA ay isang international war crimes. Pwede pong hulihin, litisin at parusahan ang mga tao na gumamit ng pasabog na ito kahit saang parte ng daigdig because what they did po is a crime against the international community. May rin namin itong kinukundina. Narinig po ni Presidente ang hiling at iyak ng pamilya ni Keith ng hustisya, lalo na at nagsabi ang pamilya na binaril ang mga biktima. Nangako ang Pangulo na masusi itong imbestigahan at pagbabayarin ang may sala. Hindi lang pangarap ni Keith ang nagdaho sa kanyang pagkamatay sa kamay ng CPP-NPA, na wala rin ng karangalan na maaari niyang ibigay sa minamahal nating bansang Pilipinas dahil sa pagpatay na ito.
The AFP is also working closely with the Philippine National Police in the filing of criminal charges or cases against the perpetrators and violators of Republic Act 9851 or the Philippine Act on Crimes Against International Humanitarian Law, genocide, and other crimes against humanity. The use of APMs is a violation of the international humanitarian law and the 1997 anti-personnel mine ban adopted by the international community. The 1997 APM Mine Ban Convention, which takes effect in 1998, prohibits the acquisition, production, stockpiling, and the use of weapons. The CPP-NPA is listed as a terror organization by the Philippines, the US, the EU, the United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand.
Now let's hear more about the Malaysian authorities recommending some safety measures after the collision between metro trains in Kuala Lumpur that injured more than 200 people. Again, we have Alfred Balmes for the report.
Hi Esther, good afternoon. After the collision incident of Kilanajaya Line on May 24, the Cabinet has approved 23 recommendations made by the 9-member investigation committee. Particular attention was given to ensure that the entire rail service industry and structure management keep public safety as a paramount concern. Transport Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Wika Sun said the recommendation will improve systemic and safety aspect of rapid SDN BSD services in the short and long term. During a virtual press conference on June 10, Dr. Wee said the report is not for the purpose of apportioning blame or liability of any party. The recommendation consists of 5 short-term, 11 medium-term, and 7 long-term changes. Among the short-term recommendation, which must be implemented with the next 3 months, is for 2 hostlers to be assigned during manual train operation within the tunnels. 1 hostler will drive the train, while another will act as a safety and compliance officer. The investigation committee has also called for an improvement of checklists used by the hostler and operation control center during the manual operation and critical situation. Works tool given to hostlers to carry out their duties on low visible environment, such as LRT tunnels, must be upgraded, and the committee said It also commended the setting of a siting committee to perform audits on track markers. For the medium and long term, the recommendation include improving refreshing courses and recertification for hostler and OCC personnel to maintain their competences. Dr. Wee mentioned that Prasarana and Rapid Rail must implement the 23 recommendation by hook or by crook for the safety of the people and commuters. The ministry will make sure that they deliver and comply the SOPs 100%. The investigation committee is headed by the Transport Ministry Secretary General Datuk Isham Ishak. In the 8:45 p.m. incident on May 24, 213 passengers were injured, 47 of them seriously, following the collision of two LRT trains on Kinaraya-Jaya line, which occurred in tunnels between the KLCC and Kampong Baro station. The crash involved one train carrying passenger and the other train, which was said to have been test driven to following fault carrying only a driver. Back to you, Esther.
Thank you, Alfred, for your update on that developing story. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Likewise, live reporting from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. This is Alfred Balmes. We live in interesting times.
From Malaysia, let's head on to Thailand and let's get the latest coronavirus situation there. Joining us live, here's Veronica Carino. Hello, Veronica. I can't hear you, Veronica. There you go. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. On Thursday, health officials reported 43 more COVID-19 deaths and 2,310 new infections, bringing the total death toll in Thailand to 1,375, and the total number of cases to 187,538 since the outbreak began. Let's listen.
So that's a very good rate that we're going in terms of vaccinating the medical personnel in the front lines of this battle. We also intend to give vaccines to 12.5 million people who are at least 60-year-old, and approximately 557,000 of them have already received their first dose, and the number is expected to increase in the days to come. We have new recoveries that exceed new confirmed cases again. That's quite good news, hoping there will be a trend. New recoveries recorded today, we have 3,035 new recoveries. Those discharged, sent home after being treated and cured, 3,035. We have new confirmed case, 2,310 new confirmed cases. The active cases still being treated currently is 46,876.
According to the Center for COVID-19 Situation Administration, or CCSA, the 2,310 new cases reported in the preceding hours included 1,467 cases reported by hospitals, 703 from community mass testing, 102 in prisons, and 38 in international arrivals. The 43 new fatalities, according to CCSA Assistant Spokeswoman Apimasay Srirangsan, were aged 25 to 91. There were 31 men and 12 women among the participants. On the other hand, there were 27 new deaths in Bangkok, 5 in Samut Prakan, 4 in Nakhon Pathom, and 2 in Nakhon Sawan. A single COVID-related mortality was also recorded in Nonthaburi and 4 other provinces. According to Dr. Apimasay, the longest duration a patient was hospitalized before death was 48 days, while the average length was 15 days. According to the spokesman, 139,287 people have recovered out of a total of 187,538 cases, including 3,035 in the last 24 hours, with 46,876 still in hospitals. Bangkok, with 788 new cases, was followed by Pathum Thani 308, Samut Prakan 209, Nonthaburi 132, and Prachuap Khirikan 94. Meanwhile, the Delta strain of COVID-19 has spread to 11 provinces in Thailand, according to Dr. Supakit Sirilak, Director General of Thai Medical Sciences Department, with 348 people infected to date, including 318 cases in Bangkok alone. Samples from random testing on 4,185 infected persons obtained between April and Wednesday reveals 3,703 cases of alpha strain, 88.48%, and 348 delta cases, 8.32%, he reported Thursday. The tests were carried out in collaboration with Medical Sciences Department and the new laboratories at Chulalongkorn University's Faculty of Medicine, Ratimbodi Hospital, and Prince of Songkhla University. According to reports from Public Health England and World Health Organization, the Alpha variant is more transmissible and has caused more sickness and fatalities than the other strains, yet vaccines are effective against it. He added the Delta variant spreads quicker than the Alpha strain, but there are no indications that the latter is more hazardous. While the Beta strains causes more sickness and fatalities than the original strains, despite the fact that vaccines are effective against both. According to Dr. Supakit, laboratories' close monitoring of the spread of distinct COVID-19 variants will aid in the containment of the virus. This update is from Thai PBS World. Back to you, Alma.
Thank you very much, Veronica, for your update. You stay safe. Have a safe weekend.
Thank you, and likewise, have a great weekend. Reporting from Thailand, this is Veronica Carino. We live in interesting times.
This portion is brought to you by Security Bank.
Tayong mga Filipino, likas na palabati. Sanay rin tayong makipagkamay. Pero dahil na rin sa COVID pandemic, isinusulong ang pagbati na hindi na kailangan pang makipagkamay. Ang pambansang pagbati. Ito ay ang pagdampi ng kanang palad sa gitnang bahagi ng dibdib, kasabay ng bahagyang pagyukod ng ulo o paibabang tingin, at pagsambit ng mga salitang nagpapahayag ng pagbati, paggalang o pagpupugay. Pagkatapos nito ay ang pag-angat ng ulo ng nakangiti at nakatingin sa mata ng binabati. Pambansang pagbati, pagpapakita ng paggalang, kababaang loob at pagiging sensero nating mga Filipino.
Welcome back to the program. Now in Maldives, a massive bridge project in the country will soon be awarded this month. Here's Steffi Dewan for the update. Hi, Steffi.
Hello, Esther. Yes, that's my latest news for today. The awarding of the Chilamali Bridge project, or the connection of 4 different islands, which are Male, Bilimale, Chilafushi, and Bulifalhu, would be finalized in the next 2 weeks, according to President Ibrahim Mohamed Solih. The bridge that connects the 4 different islands aims to facilitate the development of industrial work. The bridge will also provide convenience in transport for citizens living in Vilimale. He announced that latest developments regarding the massive infrastructure project of the Maldives' second over-water bridge. He said that the tender process of the project was completed and the valuation was also now reaching to an end. The president also said that delays were faced in the project due to the pandemic, and the delays were faced in the holding meetings with the Exim Bank of India over the project. The project is supported by the bank, and an Indian company will be selected for the project. The 140-meter navigation bridge will have at the Great Roads of 2.96 kilometers and cover over 4 different islands. In deeper waters, the bridge will have marine viaducts installed of 141 kilometers and 2.32 kilometers marine viaducts installed on land. A signalized junction will be established under the project between the islands of Male and Bilingeli. Roundabouts are also be constructed in Tilapushi and Gulipalhu. The remaining islands to be connected via the bridge, and each island and junction will have the bus station. The president also spoke on the international port project to be established in Gulipalhu. He said that the documents regarding area of land the project is according to the press release from Maldives. Back to you, Esther.
Thank you, Steffi, for all your updates. Please stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you so much, Esther. Be safe also. Reporting live from Maldives, this is Steffi Di Juan, and we live in interesting times.
Meanwhile, Sri Lanka announced an investigation into a possible oil slick reported off its west coast, where a container Singapore ship is submerged after burning for 13 days. Coast Conservation Minister Nalaka Godaheva said local experts were asked to examine an oil patch of about 0.35 square kilometers or 0.13 square miles where MV Express Pearl ran aground earlier this month. The Express Pearl reported an onboard acid leak and caught fire just as it was due to enter the Colombo harbor on May 20. The fire was put out after 13 days, but the vessel's stern hit the bottom of the shallow sea when a tug attempted to move it to deeper waters. The operator of the vessel, Express Feeder, said inspection of the wreck found no oil leaks from the ship's fuel tanks. But water in the area was discolored since the container carrier submerged on June 2. Sri Lankan authorities are bracing for a possible oil spill from the submerged wreck, or some 350 tons of bunker oil thought to be still in its fuel tanks. Express feeders have already deployed representatives from the International Tankers Owners Pollution Federation and Oil Spill Response to monitor any oil spill and help with the cleanup of beaches.
In the Philippines, fully vaccinated senior citizens residing in areas under general community quarantine or GCQ and modified GCQ or MGCQ can now enjoy more liberty despite the coronavirus pandemic after the government allowed them to leave their homes. Here's presidential spokesperson Harry Roque. Let's listen in.
Pinayagan din ng inyong IETF na lumabas na ang mga fully vaccinated senior citizens sa mga lugar na nasa general community quarantine at modified general community quarantine. Pwede na lumabas si lolo't lola. Subject ito sa mga kondisyon tulad ng presentation ng duly issued COVID-19 vaccination card at pagsunod sa minimum public health standards. Kaya mga lolo-lola, kung naiinip na sa bahay, magpabakuna na po tayo. Ipinagbabawal pa din po sa mga fully vaccinated senior citizens ang interzonal travel maliban sa nauna ng pinayagang point-to-point interzonal travel.
Vietnam plans to postpone this year's Southeast Asian Games, according to state media, as the country grapples with a new virus outbreak. The regional Olympics are due to be held in Hanoi in 11 other locations, and some of them at the epicenter of the fresh COVID wave from November 21 to December 2. But Vietnam reportedly wants to move the 31st SEA Games to next year. An online meeting between the Olympic Committee of the nations due to compete at the Games was held on Wednesday, according to Vietnam News Agency. And it said due to the complicated pandemic situation in Vietnam and in the region, VOC, or Vietnam Olympic Committee, suggested to postpone the SEA Games 31 to July of next year. The committees will reportedly speak again in 2 weeks before a final decision is made. SEA Games events are due to take place in some of the worst affected provinces, including Bac Ninh and Bac Giang in the country's northeast. One badminton venue in Bac Giang has been turned into a field hospital. And Vietnam previously hosted the multi-sports competition in 2003. It has allocated a budget of around $69 million for the Games. The SEA Games are expected to attract nearly 20,000 participants, including about 7,000 athletes from 11 countries, according to state media.
Vietnam, once a model for its successful handling of pandemic, has started asking for public donations to buy vaccines as it struggles to contain a new coronavirus wave. Let's watch this.
Đến thời điểm này thì tôi chưa ủng hộ cho quỹ bởi vì tôi có những băn khoăn sau đây. Thứ nhất thì tôi không chắc chắn rằng số tiền mà tôi và mọi người ủng hộ sẽ được sử dụng cho mục đích duy nhất là mua vaccine và tiêm cho toàn dân.
A financial contribution from the community and society is needed to make a mass rollout possible. Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh told the nation on Saturday during a live broadcast to launch the campaign. The Southeast Asian country has vaccinated only about 1% of its population of nearly 100 million, and authorities have become increasingly alarmed by a recent spike in cases. Since last week, mobile phone users have received up to 3 text messages urging them to contribute to a COVID-19 vaccine fund, while civil servants have been encouraged to part with a day's pay. Vietnam's industrial northern provinces, home to key factories such as Samsung and Foxconn, have been particularly badly hit by the latest outbreak. Across the country, tens of thousands of people have lost their jobs, according to state media, with bars and restaurants forced to close in major hubs such as Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, and public gatherings canceled.
Back in the Philippines, people residing in the National Capital Region, or NCR Plus, can now visit gyms and historical sites, according to Malacanang. This after the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases approved the partial reopening of gyms and other indoor non-contact sports, as well as the historical sites and museums. Here's Presidential Spokesperson Harry Roque.
Balitang IATF po tayo. Nagpulong ang inyong IATF kahapon, Huwebes, June 10, kung saan pinayagan ang pagbubukas ng gyms at fitness studios at iba pang indoor non-contact sports venues tulad ng skating rings at racket sports courts sa National Capital Region plus areas at 30% venue capacity. Kailangan ng mga gyms na binanggit kong venues ng Safety Seal Certification bago sila makapagbukas. Ulitin ko po hindi po ibig sabihin bukas na ang gyms. Kinakailangan kumuha muna sila ng Safety Seal Certification. Galing po yan sa DTI at sa DOH bago sila makapagbukas. Pinayagan na rin magbukas ang historical sites at museums sa National Capital Region plus areas at 20% venue capacity. Kailangan nilang sumunod sa health at safety protocols. Kailangan din ang pagsang-ayon ng local government units kung saan maroon ang mga sites na ito. Ngunit bawal pa rin po ang guided tours sa historical sites at museums.
Staying in the Philippines, all fully vaccinated individuals in the country who wish to travel overseas need to secure a certification indicating that they already received 2 jobs against COVID-19. Malacanang said it today. This developed after the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases revised on Thursday the guidelines on inbound international travel to any port of the Philippines of all fully vaccinated individuals who have been inoculated in the Philippines. Again, here's Presidential Spokesperson Harry Roque.
Speaking of fully vaccinated individuals, inamendahan ng inyong IATF ang guidelines ng inbound international travel to any point of the Philippines of all fully vaccinated individuals who have been vaccinated in the Philippines lamang po na nakasaad sa IATF Resolution number 119. Una, nilagyan po ng date of effectivity ang nasabing guideline which is June 16, 2021. Pangalawa, nilinaw ng IATF na kailangan dala o hawak ng isang fully vaccinated individual ang kanyang vaccination card na kailangan ma-verify bago siya umalis ng bansa at bago ang kanyang boarding. Kailangan din mabigyan siya ng certification bago ang kanyang departure. Ang certification na ito ay magagaling sa Department of Information and Communications Technology o sa City Health Officer ng local government unit na nag-administer ng last dose para sa kanyang full vaccination. Yan po ang latest sa inyong IATF. Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat.
In other news, more than a dozen Indonesian McDonald's outlets were temporarily shut Wednesday over virus fears as the chain's new BTS meal deal sparked frenzied buying from fans in the K-pop mad country. Take a look.
Ya, ini untuk hari ini kita segel untuk McD Jalan Tambak. Kebetulan memang melanggar untuk prokes berkerumun melebihi kapasitas ya. Kebetulan kita langsung tidak lanjuti untuk kita segel selama 1 kali 24 jam.
Now, Jakarta and several other cities slapped closure stickers on at least 13 outlets that were deluged with online food delivery drivers picking up a meal set named after the hugely popular Korean boy band. Indonesia is one of the hardest hit nations in Asia, and Jakarta authorities did not respond to requests for comment, but local media said 5 stores in the capital were closed over BTS meal orders. The meal set of chicken nuggets, fries, and a drink first made available in Indonesia on Wednesday has been on offer in dozens of countries since May. BTS have become global superstars with millions of fans around the world since their debut in 2013.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
Welcome back to the program. President Duterte is set to lead on June 12 the Philippines' 123rd Independence Day commemoration outside Metro Manila, Malacanang said yesterday.
Dadalo person ang presidente sa komemoration ng ating Independence Day. Ito po ay sa labas ng Metro Manila.
Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, however, refused to divulge the venue, citing security reasons. Filipinos annually celebrate Independence Day every June 12, which is declared a regular holiday. The country's first president, Emilio Aguinaldo, proclaimed the Philippines' independence from the Spanish colonial rule in Cavite on June 12, 1898. Aguinaldo's proclamation of independence made the Philippines Asia's first free nation from clout of Western powers. On June 12, 2020, President Duterte skipped the ceremonies for the celebration of Independence Day at the Rizal Park in Manila due to the limited number of participants in last year's event. The Interagency Task Force for Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases allowed the celebration of Independence Day last year despite the prevailing coronavirus disease or COVID-19 pandemic on condition that only 10 persons would attend the event. President Duterte in 2019 led the celebration of 121st Independence Day at 6th Infantry Battalion headquarters in Malabang, Lanao del Sur. In 2008, President Duterte delivered his first keynote speech for Independence Day at the Aguinaldo Shrine in Kawit, Cavite.
Train travel has largely ground to a halt in Cambodia due to the coronavirus. But railway fans can still get their fix aboard a stationary carriage converted into a hipster cafe. Take a look.
COVID នៅផ្ទះតបប្រមល់អត់សុខចឹងដល់ពេលបានកាហ្វេអាទេសភ្លេងគាត់បើកមកបានខ្ញុំមករំហាយកាយនឹងថតរូបលេងជាមួយមិត្តភ័ក្តិមករំហាយកាយផឹកកាហ្វេថតរូបលេងហ្នឹងហើយតាស្ដៃបងទៅពីកាលនេះអស់11000បងដោយសារវិបត្តិ COVID នឹងកើតឡើងខ្សែអ្នកដំណើរយើងក៏ផ្អាកដំណើរការមួយរយៈអញ្ចឹងយើងក៏បង្កើតគំនិតយកជាទូរថភ្លើងមកធ្វើជាកាហ្វេរថភ្លើងដើម្បីទាញចំណូលខ្លះចូលក្រុមហ៊ុននិងដើម្បីជួយបុគ្គលិកឲ្យពួកគាត់មានការងារធ្វើក្នុងកំឡុងពេលវិបត្តិ COVID នឹងកើតឡើង
And now let's join our EBC correspondent Crystal Ann Ballesteras as she tries out Cambodia's best street food.
Hello, Saksabay. Join me today as we experience the authentic foods here in Cambodia.
Cambodian street food is not as famous as its counterpart, Thailand. The cuisine, in general, is overshadowed by its popular neighbors, Thailand and Vietnam. However, once you go deep into Cambodian cuisine, you will discover unique and amazing flavors. Snacking is a popular Cambodian pastime, particularly snacking on street food. You'll find different snacks available on Cambodia's streets at different times of the day. Delightful dishes usually cost no more than $1. The freshly pressed sugarcane juice in Cambodia is then poured over lots of ice and combined with a splash of lime, and it is absolutely refreshing and delicious. Numpang, or the typical Cambodian sandwich, is served with meaty ingredients such as pate, ham, or pork served with cucumber, carrots, chives, or onions. You will find Numpang street vendors with their carts outside of markets or near office buildings. They are easily identifiable with the baguettes exposed on the carts. Micha or locha is one of the most popular Cambodian street food. It is a stir-fried dish consisting of mi, which are noodles, with bean sprouts, Chinese broccoli, and chives. It is typically cooked with beef and topped with a fried egg. You can find the noodle vendors on the streets or at the markets in Phnom Penh.
That was so satisfying. Did you enjoy the authentic foods here in Cambodia? What's your favorite? I hope this video made you starving, but satisfied your cravings. Goodbye!
There you go.
Wow. Have you been to Cambodia, Alma?
Yes, a long time ago.
Yes,
Very
me
long
too.
time ago. Decades.
Okay, let's get our vaccine so we can travel again.
That's true.
Okay, and that
Thank
is
you.
the latest news in the ASEAN region. Thank you for joining us today here in ASEAN in Focus. This is Esther Odanga from your EBC Thailand Bureau, and we'll live in interesting times.
Thank you for keeping me company, Esther, and you keep safe. I'm Alma Angeles. We'll see you back next week. We live in interesting times.